Hey guys, it's your Haunty Sam here with Starcatcher Paranormal. I am back again with another story time. This one from when we call the Yellow House around here. We lived in this house when I was 15 to 17 years old. I spent a lot of my time growing up in Arizona. We moved from Kansas when I was 6, when we moved from Kansas initially. Moved here to Arizona. Stayed here for a while. We knew that we wanted to go back to visit my dad's family eventually, but they didn't want to pull us from school, and it was kind of expensive and stuff like that, so there was never really a right time for it. In April of 2011, my great-grandmother on my dad's side wound up passing away, and the family wasn't ready to get rid of the house yet, and things were kind of on our way to the funeral. Our car that we borrowed from my mom's mom, my grandma, broke down. We were stranded in New Mexico for a little bit because we drove there. We were stranded in New Mexico for a little bit, had to take the bus back. It was a whole thing. And so because of that, my dad really couldn't get to work anymore, and so obviously there was no way to get income. And it's not like he couldn't have taken the bus or something. First of all, the town that we lived in did not have a bus anywhere close by. I think it's literally like a 2-hour walk to the next town that might have had a bus at the time, but I kind of don't think it did. We lived in a very small, underdeveloped area at the time. And so, it wasn't like he could just walk somewhere and, catch a bus, because he worked, an hour and a half away. So it all just kind of wound up working out for us. We would be able to rent a car out there. They would have a car waiting for us there. We would have a house that they initially said was going to be rent-free. We would just have to pay, the utilities and stuff on it. We got there and things kind of low-key fell apart, but that's sort of besides the point. What was true, though, is when we got there were lots of prayers over the house, because my great-grandmother passed away from cancer, and so there was constantly prayers over the house for her. And because of that, it was the safest that I had felt in years, living in very haunted places before that. This is the safest that I had felt in years, living anywhere. We'll have to see if my dad would be willing to come on here and talk, or if he'd let me talk about the things that he experienced in that house, because that's the house that he grew up in. My great-grandmother never moved. They moved to this house, I don't remember when. It was built in 25. The house was built in 1925. My great-grandparents moved in there. I believe it was the 1940s that they lived there. Was shortly after they had gotten married and had a couple of kids. That's the only house that they had ever lived in. And my dad basically grew up in that house, and he has a few stories of his own from that house that are... There were 3 bedrooms in the house, and my great-grandmother had 8 children, plus some of the grandchildren were born while the youngest were still in the house. My dad is a similar age to one of his aunts. I think she's just a couple years older, if that. So the 2 larger bedrooms were used for the kids, and the 1 small bedroom in the back of the house was used for my great-grandmother and great-grandfather. From the closet that was in that small back bedroom, my great-grandmother says that there was a time where the devil came from the closet and was yanking her by the hair and was trying to pull her into the closet. I think it was a dream. That was the bedroom that I wound up taking, and whether I had heard that story before or after and put the 2 together, I'm not sure if I knew that moving in there or not. But I was 15, and didn't think that I was, important enough for the devil to come visit me himself to yank me to hell. And like I said, there was quite a few prayers over the house because my grandmother had passed away of cancer. And so a very long time, again, this was there was still an eerie feeling around the house, but it wasn't as bad as the other places that I had lived in before. And so, because of that, in this house, I really let my guard down. And in fact, the first paranormal experience I hadn't even realized was paranormal at first, because basically all of the family members had a key to this house and were used to kind of just stopping by anytime. We had a couple people actually, like, come to our front door and try to open it, and it was locked, and they were confused because Grandma never kept the door locked. Well, we're not Grandma. It wasn't uncommon for us to wake up and there to just be a family member, like, in the house. And so there was one day that I had come from taking a shower and was heading all the way through the house back to my room, and I saw a man standing at our kitchen sink with his head bowed like this over the sink. He was dressed in a blue sweater vest. He had what I assume was a white button up under that, and he had khakis on, and he was just, his head was down. The outfit felt very 50s or 60s to me. And no one in my family like really dressed like that, but a lot of them went to church, so I thought it was a real person. Blinked and it was gone. Most of the experiences that were had in that house were had. My heater just turned off. These videos are cursed! Most of the experiences that were had in this house were actually had by me, and virtually nobody else experienced anything. I think my dad had one moment of, what is it called, like clairgustance or something like that, where he smelled tortillas being cooked, but went out into the kitchen and obviously nobody was there, nothing was being made, like nobody had just made food. It was like first thing in the morning. And so he was like kind of confused for a second, but I think that is honestly the only other experience that was really had in the house outside of myself. But I have a few more stories for this house as well, although there aren't as many. We lived there for only a couple years, so there wasn't a whole lot that could have really happened anyway. But I do have a few stories from that house as well. And again, I'll see if my dad is willing to pitch in and tell some stories about that house, because he had some freaky experiences when he lived there before. Yeah, anyways, that's it for this time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!